everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bianca. Today I'm going to be showing you some Dollar Tree DIYs, and the inspiration for this video came from antique and vintage shops or flea markets. Lately I've been a little obsessed with Rustic Decor. I've been looking at a lot of vintage shop displays and I think they're so beautiful. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and make a vintage sign. So I have two ways you can make this. As you can see, I have these 3 packets from the Dollar Tree and then these 2 wooden pieces. When I went to Home Depot, I picked up these 2 pieces of wood. They were $1.47 each and they were already cut. I found them, of course, in the wood section. They were at the bottom and they had different sizes, and I just picked up these 2 and I thought it would be perfect to use for this. I also picked up 3 of these fairy doors. It's just a wooden rectangle and I figured I could connect 3 of them and it would look exactly the same as the 2 wooden pieces I bought from Home Depot. So I have 2 options here. I could use these 3 fairy doors, glue them together from the Dollar Tree, or I can use the 2 wooden pieces from Home Depot. They're the same price, both $3. Today I'm going to go ahead and use the 2 pieces from Home Depot and save the fairy doors for another DIY. And when I was at Home Depot, I went ahead and picked up this Gorilla wood glue. Before getting started, I'm going to go ahead and sand down the 2 wooden pieces. Now I'm going to apply a generous amount of wood glue and connect these 2 pieces for my vintage sign. Since I don't have clamps to hold these 2 pieces together to dry, I'm just going to add weight to both sides and let it dry for about an hour, and then we can paint it. I just took heavy random objects and put them on each side just to hold the 2 pieces together, and then I just wiped away that extra wood glue that seeped out from the top. Now that everything is nice and dry, I am taking my linen white chalk paint and giving this one good coat and then letting it dry. The chalk paint is always linked below in my Amazon store if you want to check that out. I recently purchased mine from Home Depot for about $17 with change, so 18 bucks. And the good thing about it is it lasts me for a really long time. I'm using a Dollar Tree painting brush. This painting brush comes in a 3-pack. Now I'm going to be using the Dollar Tree poster stickers. Like I said, this is going to be a real antique vintage sign. It's going to say General Store, and then I'm going to be stenciling some words underneath that. So what I'm doing right now is just kind of peeling off the stickers and not really putting them down on the sign, just barely, just so I can see how it's gonna look and kind of try to center it as best as I can. Pinterest inspired me to make a sign like this. I've seen tons and tons of signs that say General Store or Farmer's Market, and then they have 3 smaller font words underneath it. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. I am really loving this stencil that I'm going to be using. I used it on my last thrift store makeover. If you haven't seen that, I will link it at the top. So underneath the General Store, I'm going to put milk, butter, cream. I believe this stencil is linked below in my Amazon store as well. And I'm just taking some tape to help me center and straighten these letters. These letters came on one big stencil. I cut each letter out and I always put them together, of course, to make certain words. So what I'm doing is just putting tape around the word. That way I don't get paint all over around the word once I remove the stencil. I'm using my Martha Stewart stencil brush, but you can use the Dollar Tree sponge brush as well. Just make sure you take off as much paint as possible and leave the brush somewhat dry, and then stencil 1 letter at a time with 1 coat and then go back again with the 2nd coat. Once I'm done stenciling, I'm going to remove the stencils, let it dry, and then I'm going to do a black outline on the edge of this sign, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm just going to be taking this purple ruler, and it's sticky a little bit, so I can stick it down and it'll help me make my lines pretty straight. I'm not worried too much about how straight it is because I want it to look really vintage. So if you watched any of my last DIYs, you'll notice I've used this quite a few times. I bought these wooden rulers from the Dollar Tree. It's stuck on top of the wooden ruler. You just take it off, and I've saved them so I could use them. And I think this just gives it a little bit more of a rustic feel. Once I'm done, I'm just going to clean up that pavement black paint with my linen white chalk paint. Then I'm going to be adding 2 dots for my poster stickers and separating the milk, butter, and cream words. Now before I sand this down to give it a really antique look, I'm going to seal it with Mod Podge. Once I seal it, I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to hand sand it. The main reason why I'm sealing it first with the Mod Podge is so the stickers won't peel up as I'm sanding down the general store part of the sign. Remember you guys, everybody's style is different. Like I said, I'm really into the rustic decor right now, so I want this to look very, very rustic. I'm going to sand down a lot of the wording. You don't have to do that. This is just an idea of what you can do. You can make this look any way you like. You don't have to sand it down. You don't have to seal it. Just depending on your style and where you're going to put this at, it's totally up to you on exactly what you want to do. So this is the way my vintage antique sign turned out. I am really obsessed with it. I love the way the words look. On to the second DIY, I'm going to be creating some vintage jars. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to be staining them. All of these items that I'm using, I already had. I didn't have to purchase anything. So I'm just showing you the little mixing bowls, a craft stick to mix everything together, some food coloring, Mod Podge, wax paper, paper towels, and any kind of jars that you have or vases. You can buy some from Dollar Tree. They also have Mod Podge at Dollar Tree as well. I found this idea on Pinterest from Fancy That. Her bottles came out so beautiful. Mine don't come out as pretty, but this was my first time doing it. And now that I've done it, I can tell you exactly what I can change to make them look better next time. That way, if you guys decide to make this, your bottles can come out just as pretty. To start off, you can take any mixing bowl like I'm doing here. I'm just going to be making 2 mixtures for 2 bottles. I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon of Mod Podge for each bottle. Then you're going to add half a tablespoon of water to each of the mixtures. And then I'm just going to mix both really well. Now I'm going to take my food coloring and add it to the mixtures. This part is actually up to you. I just randomly added different colors together and created 2 different colored mixtures. The best tip I can give for this is just to make sure you make the mixture kind of dark. You don't want a really bright color because then it won't look like a vintage jar once everything is said and done. See, if I would leave the green looking this bright, then the jar and bases will probably come out looking very bright. I ended up with these 2 mixtures. I just kept adding different colors and making sure it came out kind of dark. So now what we're gonna do is just add one of the colors to one jar, and then I'm gonna roll the jar around and around to cover up the whole inside of this jar. Once I got to the top of the jar, I started to roll above the mixing bowl. That way anything that falls can fall back into the bowl. The directions say to set the jars upside down for an hour on top of a paper towel. Well, in my experience, I honestly wouldn't do it like this. I would actually take a rack and set the jars on top of that. That way the drippings of the food coloring mixture can drip and fall down. Because once I finished and lifted up the jars, you could see the dripping inside of the jars. So this is how it looked. I also wouldn't leave them sitting longer than an hour. I set them out overnight, and I think that's why my colors weren't as dark as I wanted. So then you're gonna put them in the oven like this with some wax or parchment paper at the bottom, and then this is the way they came out. I think they're really pretty even with the drippings, but like I said, it would be better to set them on top of a rack. Now the far left green one came out perfect. I guess I let out most of the food coloring mixture. So I wanted to show you this little setup, how I have the mason jars inside of this decor piece. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you my vision for like a flea market, antique, vintage shop display. One day I really hope that I could open up my own little shop. And so that's what really made me want to make these DIYs, because that was just a big inspiration for me. I love the way antique shops display their decor. I think it's beautiful. For the third and final DIY, I'm going to be creating that little decor piece where I had the mason jars set inside. I'm just taking 4 gift boxes from the Dollar Tree. Again, the inspiration for this was from this flea market vintage display. You see how that little cupboard has a bunch of slots and they just have different decor pieces in there? I love that. I got that from French Country Cottage on Pinterest. I will also link her at the bottom so you can go check out her stuff. She has beautiful ideas and pictures. I absolutely love that display. This is very simple to make. I'm just going to remove all 4 lids, and then I'm going to be painting the inside and outside with my linen white chalk paint just to cover up that light blue and pink really well. Then I'm going to let it dry and then apply a second coat. Now that both coats are dry, I'm just going to be hot gluing everything together. Now you'll see where I'm adding the glue. I didn't have to apply a second coat in those areas because you weren't going to see them anyways. Now I didn't want it to be completely white, so I just took that nutmeg brown and a Dollar Tree brush, and you want to use one with bristles. I don't recommend doing dry brushing with a sponge brush just because I think it looks better with a bristle brush when you're trying to make something look rustic. So this was my little inspiration setup of a vintage antique shop. I also took out the mason jars from that little decor piece I made, and I put like that little clock in there with flowers as well, and it looked really nice. You can see that in my thumbnail picture. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.